Welcome to Peel Senior Link's Aging in Peel. I'm Pat Spadafora, your co-host for the show, and I'm delighted that today we're going to be talking about volunteering and how that enriches our well-being. We have three very passionate guests with us today who will be talking with us from Volunteer Mississauga, Brampton, Caledon, and my co-host Ray Applebaum will join me later in the show so we can talk a little bit about what we've heard. To start us off, I'd like to welcome Corinne Strong, who is the Executive Director of VolunteerMBC. We were joking earlier that I keep wanting to say N. So welcome to the show. It's just a pleasure to have you here. And I know that our viewers are going to be really excited to share your passion. So why don't you start by telling us a little bit about what VolunteerMBC is and the services you offer.
Sure. So VolunteerMBC, we're still a young organization. We started the Volunteer Center, so we basically provide volunteer opportunities for the entire region of Peel, hence the Mississauga, Brampton, Caledon. And we started in 2008 in September, and basically our mandate is to promote and connect people to meaningful volunteer opportunities. So anything that volunteers are passionate about, any interests that they have, they can come to us and we will either help them through our online database or through in-person interviews and try to match them to a number of nonprofit organizations in Peel. In fact, we have about 130 members right now, so it's quite expensive. And yes.
Wow, that is expensive. I really like what you said about meaningful activities. Because everyone has so much to contribute, don't they?
Absolutely.
And if we can tap into what's really meaningful for them, then I think likely it's going to be meaningful for the person or organization they're working with.
Absolutely, yes, yeah. And I think you definitely have to, it's a big consideration, especially I think for older adults, people that are maybe just about to retire, that may have plans, but we always say we want to try to get them before they get to the golf course, and then we lose them forever. So I totally appreciate that older adults have very active lives. It's just really great if that can include a portion where they give back to the community, and they can do it through so many different activities. And that, I think that's the key, the giving back part, and finding something that maybe throughout your life, you may have had a very successful career and you may have very specific skill sets, but you want to do something completely different, and that's totally okay, and that's your chance to really find out what you are passionate about.
To reinvent yourself.
Absolutely, yes,
I have a 90-year-old friend, Corinne, that is volunteers at the United Nations in New York, and she still is going strong volunteering, but she talks about, she says, I'm not retired, I'm retooled.
And then that's a great
So there's another way to put it. I like what you said about getting to people before they hit the golf course. I think that's key, but another way of looking at it might be that once they've hit the golf course, perhaps after a year or two, using that analogy, then they might also be ready to engage in some other kinds of activities.
Definitely. And sometimes it comes at different times in their lives. It's sometimes, I mean, one of the greatest benefits of volunteering is definitely, preventing social isolation and being able to be with friends and network. And for a lot of people, once they get older and they lose their spouse or their partner, it becomes very lonely often. And sometimes their children are far away, and volunteering is a great way to meet new people, make new friends, to keep those networks going, and to demonstrate that you have a purpose, that you can be happy in your retirement, and you're helping people at the same time, which is very important.
I think that is such an important point. One thing I've noticed in care facilities, for example, is that you may have a spouse who, while their partner is alive, comes every day, perhaps helps with meals or maybe helps with activities. But what I've seen is that even when that partner passes away, very often that individual is so connected to the home that they still volunteer. They still keep going back to the home.
Yeah, yeah, and that's, I think, you know, that's absolute key. And I think too, as you retire, and you know, your priorities definitely change. But looking back, you know, going back to the benefits of volunteering, I think, you know, another great benefit is definitely the health part, right?
Absolutely.
You know, we did a survey amongst our volunteers, and we have a database with about 5,000 volunteers in it. And last year, we did about 13,000 referrals throughout the region of Peel. So we did a large survey last year, and we really found out that we asked the question, you know, did you find, for the older adults specifically, we asked them, did you find that there were health benefits associated with your volunteering? And 21% identified that they could see health benefits from a mental perspective. And when we asked the question about physical well-being, 13% said that they definitely saw an improvement in their activity level. And then, you know, another really important part was that 43% identified that they had a lot of fun. And I think that's really what it boils down to, because when you're happy and you're making other people happy, it's contagious. And that's really what volunteering ultimately boils down to, right? Being connected to your community and being happy.
For sure. I just, this was new to me. Just yesterday I was reading about a number of countries, and it started in Bhutan, where they have national happiness indices.
Yes, yeah.
That, and I think in that country in particular, their tagline was something to the effect that happiness is a place. So you know, I think we could talk about that, because it's also a state of mind and many other things.
Absolutely,
but definitely, if you're having fun and other people are also having fun, then everybody really benefits.
Definitely, and you know, sometimes it's also a great time for older adults to really explore what they're passionate about in life. You know, I'll never forget this. We had a volunteer that came to us when we first started up. And I think she was around early 50s. And she said that her entire life, she had her doctorate, and she was in research, medical research. And she hated her job her entire life. And she said she was driven to it because of her parents. Her parents pushed her in that education, and that's because her parents were in similar fields. And she never, you know, was able to really explore what she wanted to do. And it turns out all she really wanted to do was to be a ballerina. And you know, that may sound funny,
that's a shift.
but that's exactly
fantastic.
What we connected her with. We connected her with an organization that teaches younger children ballet and helps them along, and that's what we could do for her. We connected her, and you know, that was her passion. And to finally have an opportunity, you know, it doesn't matter at what point in your life it comes, but if you have that opportunity, it's really important to explore that.
That's a fantastic idea, really.
Yeah.
I know you may be familiar with Mark Friedman's work with Civic Ventures in the U.S. and in one of his books, he talks about people giving back, but in the same kind of field they were in. You know, a retired physician. Perhaps working with indigenous communities that don't have health care. And
so
you know, for some, range, you know?
Absolutely. For some, that's definitely what they want to do. But, you know, it's sometimes about really finding out who you are and doing it through volunteering. We in fact, we tell the youth that all the time as well. Yes. It's a great way to explore what you want to do for the rest of your life with your career, you know. So.
It's exciting. You can build on the strengths you already have, or as you say, you can take that opportunity to do something absolutely brand new.
And the great part is, I think, that it's, in the end, it's a win-win. It's a win for the volunteer, and it's definitely a win for the organization as well, who, you know, some of the organizations in Peel, in fact, most of them operate with 50% volunteers.
Really, that's a lot.
So you can imagine, if you took that away, we wouldn't have near the services that are available out there for the community.
No, there's a huge human capital resource here. That's I don't know what we would do without that, component.
Most definitely.
You mentioned youth a few minutes ago.
Yes.
In the few minutes that we have left in this segment, can you tell us a little bit about upcoming Volunteer Week and also the Change the World
Sure.
program?
So Volunteer Week obviously is huge for the Volunteer Center, and we actually will be having our AGM and our inaugural Volunteer Awards, because recognizing volunteers is hugely important.
Sure.
And you know, we all do it because we want to do it, but being recognized is extremely important, and it's just nice to get that. So it's a great opportunity during National Volunteer Week. But aside from that, you know, we should recognize volunteers throughout the year, really.
Right.
But as far as youth opportunities, so we are participating in a provincial campaign. It's called Change the World, and it's an Ontario Youth Challenge for high school students, where we are encouraging them to volunteer for 3 hours during National Volunteer Week, starting for a 3-week period. So we're encouraging them to interact, find opportunities to interact with older adults, to you know, really do something, take the initiative themselves, adopt a cause, something that they see in their community that they don't like and that they can really associate with and maybe do something about it. So that's a great initiative. All they have to do is go to our website, and really for me, it's a plea to older adults to encourage their grandchildren, perhaps, that are in high school. If they already set a good example, if they're already volunteering, try to get them on board as well, because sometimes they just need that little push.
A little bit of a push.
Yeah, and what better way than it to come from a grandparent that, you know, it's it has a lot more meaning. And definitely being able to volunteer together is so important, definitely.
Yeah. I was just thinking that if they could do something together.
Yeah.
I was on your website. It's great, easy to follow, and I noticed that it was very easy, really, if somebody wanted to register to be part of the Change the World.
Absolutely.
Just point and click.
Yes, definitely. And you know, again, we're going to have multiple community efforts, park cleanups throughout Mississauga, Brampton, and Caledon. And there's going to be a huge media launch as well on the 14th, which will be great to recognize celebrating National Volunteer Week and Change the World.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. My guest has been Corinne Strong, the Executive Director. Thank you. We'll be back with the Volunteer Extraordinaire after the break, and Corinne. So I think you're really going to enjoy meeting him. Thank you again, Corinne. It's been just a pleasure having you here today.
Thank you so much.